Welcome to Daytona International Speedway and a 4th of July celebration in tribute to Richard Petty, brought to you by First Brands Corporation, makers of STP Son of a Gun Protectant. The King will compete for the final time today here at the World Center of Racing in the Pepsi 400. Thousands have gathered here to see that and to welcome the President of the United States. Air Force One, carrying President George Bush, arrived about an hour ago. The President will be the Grand Marshal for today's Pepsi 400. And good morning, everybody, and welcome to Daytona. I'm Bob Jenkins, and what a great day of racing we have for you in about a half hour. But for the next 30 minutes, Richard Petty is going to be given a lot of gifts. He's going to be lauded as he goes for his 201st win today here at Daytona.
And could it be more appropriate than to do it in front of the President of the United States? Remember 8 years ago in 1984 when he won his 200 and Ronald Reagan was here? Hey, I think he's got a chance to do it today.
What do you think, Benny?
Sure, he's got a chance to do it because he started outside pole. He qualified second. He's probably the most competitive he's been in years. In 1984, the best he could do was sixth. Richard Petty can really and truly win the race today.
Pepsi 400 at 11 o'clock Eastern Time in about a half hour. But for right now, let's go down to trackside and catch the special ceremonies honoring the King, Richard Petty. Your host down there is Dr. Jerry Punch.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 35 years, one man has reigned as the undisputed king of stock car racing. He has an unprecedented 200 career victories, 10 of which came right here at this famed oval, 7 in the coveted Daytona 500. For the past 3.5 decades, this man has poured his heart and soul into a sport he loves so much. His number one priority has always been you, the fans. He has given us so many wonderful memories over the years. Now it is our turn to give him something that he will never forget. So for the thousands of you here today and the millions watching and listening around the world, join with me as we put our hands together to welcome for the very last time in a driver's uniform here at Daytona, the man, the legend, the King, Richard Petty. Richard, we have many presentations to make to you this morning and some very, very special and very emotional people who want to be a part of this wonderful day for you here at Daytona. Our first presentation, please welcome the President of Daytona International Speedway, Mr. Jim Foster.
Thank you, Jerry. Richard, I stand here representing both the management and all employees of Daytona International Speedway to say thank you for the memories. No other driver has given as much of himself both on and off the track to support and promote events at the World Center of Racing. On behalf of everyone at Speedway, I want to present you with this original painting by Jeannie Barnes, which is depicted on the cover of today's souvenir program.
Thank you, Jim. I guess that, Daytona's been probably the most favorite racetrack that I've had. The first super speedway race I ever run was at Daytona, and we came down and, I didn't win, but my father did, so that made it a good day. So it's really been good to the Petty family. And, I guess I'd like to take this opportunity just to say thank you, Bill France Sr., for having the foresight to be able to look ahead and see that Winston Cup racing needed super speedways and needed to expand. Him and his wife Annie started NASCAR back in '48 or something like that, and then they decided they wanted to go into the super speedway business. So '59 and '60 they started building super speedway, and they built Daytona. And I guess if nothing else, I would really like to dedicate this particular race to Bill France, because without Bill France Sr., I wouldn't be here and you wouldn't be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Our next presenter, one of Richard Petty's closest friends in the garage area, and a fellow who watched Richard Petty race when he was a little boy as well. Please welcome five-time and defending 1991 Winston Cup champion, Dale Earnhardt.
Thank you. King, Richard the King, this is from all the drivers in the race today, and Bill France, and I think a few other people signed it too. We want to give this as a present for the Pepsi 400, the last one you're going to be in. We've really enjoyed racing with you. I have. You've been a great leader and a pioneer in our sport and taking us a long way and bringing us where we are today, and we really appreciate everything you've done for us. And really, I'm looking forward to racing you today. I think it's one of the most competitive races I've ever seen you be in. You've been real competitive in practice. I'm looking forward to King winning today.
Richard Petty being saluted by the fans who have gathered here for the Pepsi 400 coming up in about 20 minutes from right now. You're watching a special tribute to King Richard Petty and his final race here at Daytona.
If you don't like the looks of your car, shoot it with Son of a Gun from STP. Shoot the dash, seats, tires, and roof. Son of a Gun protected. Man, what a difference.
Happy birthday to you. How we doing? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Daddy. You got it. Happy birthday to you. How'd we do?
At this time, we'd like to welcome the representative from American Honda Motor Company. Please welcome Mr. Ben Cheatwood.
Thank you, Jerry Punch. Over the years, thousands of fans have been admiring you for your gracious role as a Winston Cup champion. It's clear to your fans that you'll be a champion in any endeavor that you may choose. On behalf of the thousands of people associated with Honda across the United States, it's my pleasure to present you with the 1993 Honda 4Trax Richard Petty.
Thank you very much, Ben. For our next presentation, please welcome the Area Vice President for Pepsi-Cola and the honorary starter for today's race, Mr. Bob Moore.
Thank you, Jerry. Richard, the Pepsi-Cola Company is truly proud to have been associated with you for many, many years. On behalf of the Pepsi-Cola Company, and to commemorate this, your last race at Daytona, we went back to the year you started racing, 1958. We were able to find, and it's only one of 100 left in existence, a vintage Pepsi-Cola vending machine. Richard, a 1958 Pepsi-Cola vending machine. We hope you'll enjoy it in your retirement. Richard, you got to have it.
Thank you, sir. Grandchildren will have a good time with that one, I guarantee you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next special presentation, please welcome the Vice President of General Motors and the General Manager of the Pontiac Division, Mr. John Middlebrook.
Thank you, Jerry. Well, Richard, you know, we build Pontiac excitement in all our products, but nobody has created driving excitement for NASCAR race fans like Richard Petty has for the last 35 years. We've been very proud to have Richard at the helm of the number 43 Pontiac Grand Prix for 11 years now. So to make sure, Richard, that you always have a little Pontiac excitement with you, we'd like to present to you and, of course, your team owner and wife, Linda, on behalf of Pontiac, its employees, and 3,000 Pontiac dealers across the country, the keys to this 1992 Richard Petty Special Edition Grand Prix right over there. Thanks for the memories, Richard. There you go. I'll give those to Linda.
He's going to give them to Linda, but the car's got my name on it.
And just what you need, Richard, another Pontiac. If you have a color you don't like, I'm available. I wouldn't mind having one. They're beautiful cars.
They got pretty colors, red, white, and blue. You can't beat it.
July 4th celebration, Richard Petty, and maybe he'll carry his STP Pontiac to victory lane.
Richard Petty will start outside the front row in his STP Pontiac in the Pepsi 400. Coming up in a few minutes, you're watching a special tribute to King Richard Petty here at the World Center of Racing.
Today, we thank you the best way we can as we dedicate this portion of US 220 to you and publicly mark your achievements.
We think that it's almost appropriate that there would be no speed limit on this portion of this highway. Of course, we know that wouldn't work. Somebody would take it literally. Maybe we ought to make a 43-mile-an-hour speed limit. Now, that would make it safer.
And earlier this week, a street at Daytona Beach was also named after Richard Petty. You're watching a special tribute to the King in his last race at Daytona International Speedway, part of the 1992 Richard Petty Fan Appreciation Tour. Brought to you by Quaker State, the Big Q is one tough motor oil. By Pringles, so fresh, once you pop, you can't stop. By ESPN Home Video, producers and distributors of Richard Petty and STP, available at video and retail stores nationwide. And by smooth-tasting Busch Beer and easy-drinking Busch Light.
Thank you very much, Bob. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. Our next presentation, representing Mark III vans. Please welcome Mr. Charles Doherty and Mr. Thad Boyd.
Richard, we at Mark III Vans are delighted to be part of this ceremony today to honor you. It's really a pleasure. And, of course, we celebrate your birthday a couple of days ago, too. But for all you've done for NASCAR, International Speedway, and racing itself, we at Mark III, all our associates, we got right at 1,700 now, part of the Boyd family. We want to present you this 92 Mark III van. It's sitting over here right behind you to the left there. Linda, she picked out the colors of it, so we want you to enjoy it very much and remember this day. God bless you and your family.
Thank you, sir. This is another one. I'm going to drive the car. Linda got all the grandchildren and stuff, so the van works out real good for her, so she can go shopping and you know, load up all the stuff. That's what the reason I've been driving all these years. She's usually got a big van of some kind. She keeps loading it down. But anyhow, we really appreciate this, and this will be something we can use in years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the chairman of the board of DiMucci Brothers Development Company, Mr. Sal DiMucci.
DiMucci Companies is proud to welcome the Richard Petty family to the Towers of Ponce Inlet on the site of the old beach road course where your father, Lee Petty, made the Petty name synonymous with racing and class. Towers of Ponce Inlet makes up 6 towers, and your 3-bedroom unit overlooking the ocean will be in Building 200, adjacent to the Old North Turn. On behalf of everyone connected with the DiMucci Development Corporation, I am delighted to present you with the keys to your home away from home. I hope you may have many years of enjoyment with your family here in the Daytona Beach area. I invite anyone interested in retiring with the King to call the Towers of Ponce Inlet for information. Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Welcome to the Towers.
Thank you, sir. This is going to be great. You know, now that I'm not having to drive the car, I'll have time to lollygag around on the beach, so now I've got a place to do it. So I really, really appreciate this. Thank you.
Good luck.
Well, we'll be back with more of this special Richard Petty tribute from Daytona International Speedway. He's received a condo, a Pontiac, a Honda four-wheeler, and there's more. We'll be right back. The 1992 Pepsi 400 is the final race for King Richard Petty at Daytona International Speedway. With all of his success, Richard Petty has never forgotten the fans. From the early part of his career to the present, as long as there was someone waiting for an autograph, Richard would accommodate. One of the things he'll always be remembered for is his willingness to accommodate fans and media alike. King Richard has been, is, and will continue to be a great ambassador for the sport of stock car racing.
Ladies and gentlemen, our final presentation. Please welcome a man who is the reason for our long-lasting commitment to motorsports at ESPN. Please welcome the president of ESPN, Mr. Steve Bornstein.
Richard, over the past 12 years, you've provided countless hours of great entertainment on ESPN. So on behalf of all those fans you entertained and the men and women of our production team, we offer you an entertainment center over there, which you can put in your condo and watch your past races and next races for all time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That'll be great. I can watch the reruns of all those 1,150 races that I've run, so I'll use that thing up. Thanks a lot.
So Richard Petty will be able to watch all those races, and Richard, some wonderful memories you'll be able to watch on ESPN as we continue to carry races for years and years, and hopefully some of those memories will be made right here today, maybe win number 201.
Well, it's nice to see the president of ESPN here, but the president of the United States is also here, and he will have some remarks for King Richard in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Linda Petty. Richard's raced hard all his life, and I have finally convinced him to take us on a nice cruise this Thanksgiving. Come join Richard, myself, and all of our family for 8 days and 7 nights on the world's newest luxury liner, the Royal Majesty.
It's going to be a sellout soon, so don't miss your chance. Call this number now.
We're going to have a great time. See you on board.
Welcome back to a special tribute to Richard Petty from Daytona, brought to you by First Brands Corporation, makers of STP Son of a Gun Protectant. Dr. Jerry Punch is your host down at trackside.
Thank you very much, Bob Jenkins. What a beautiful day for racing here, ladies and gentlemen. Just Chamber of Commerce weather here at Daytona Beach, Florida, as we get set for this 34th annual Pepsi 400. And what a wonderful way for Richard Petty to say goodbye at a track where he made the legend. Came here many, many years ago and raced his first race, finishing 57th. His dad went to victory lane that day. Ladies and gentlemen, while the dignitaries we are about to introduce approach the podium, all of us here can take just a moment to say thanks for the celebration we have today, the independence of our wonderful nation. And what a better way to celebrate our nation's birthday than with a wonderful sporting event and the fellowship and camaraderie among the drivers and among you, the wonderful fans. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, it is with a great deal of pleasure that I introduce to you the President of NASCAR, Mr. Bill France Jr., and the Grand Marshal for this 34th annual Pepsi 400. Please welcome the President of the United States.
Thank you, Jerry. Mr. President, 17 months ago, there were over 100,000 race fans sitting in these grandstands here at the Speedway, and many of them are here today. They were here in February of 1991, not only to see the Daytona 500, but also to participate in support of Operation Desert Storm.
along with the NASCAR drivers. Before the race, they stood and waved over 100,000 American flags and joined Mike Powell and the NASCAR drivers in singing Lee Greenwood's God Bless the USA to show their support for our troops involved in the Persian Gulf War. Not only are these people great race fans, but far more important, they're great Americans as well. That's why we are so proud today that you have been able to join us as we celebrate the birthday of the greatest country in the world. It is equally as fitting that you join us in a day in which we salute another great American and everybody's hero, Richard Petty. On behalf of the NASCAR fans throughout America and all over the world, we thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States. Mr. President.
Thank you all very much. And I can think of no better place to wish our nation happy Independence Day, happy 4th of July than standing right here with this patriotic, wonderful turnout of people, all American crowd. Thank you very much. And this is a day when we celebrate our independence and count our blessings. And the way I see it, yes, there are problems, but we are still the freest, fairest, and the greatest country on the face of the earth. And I just met with the NASCAR drivers, a real thrill for a sports fan, and they epitomize the best in sportsmanship, the best in family, the best in patriotic values. And so today, on the 4th of July, this president comes not only to greet the American people and the fans here, but this president comes to greet a king, Richard Petty, one of the great Americans. Richard, I'm proud to be at your side.
Well, I tell you, that's the reason he's the president and I drive a race car. He can talk to the people. And that's great. He's headed for North Carolina now, and you know, up there trying to get him some votes. And you know I'm going to vote. I'm a Republican all the way through. But I just want to tell you that, Mr. President, I just really, really appreciate it. I know this was part of July the 4th, but it's part of Richard Petty's life too. And for you to come down here and do this for not only for Richard Petty, but for racing in Daytona and just the whole world in the general, we can't tell you how much we appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, President George Bush has addressed those gathered here, and he has honored Richard Petty. And I'm kind of excited. This is the first time I've ever seen a president of the United States.
Well, I'll tell you, I had the opportunity of participating in the ceremonies when Ronald Reagan was here, and it's a thrilling moment, really, for the sport of auto racing.
And it's got the crowd pumped up, that's for sure.
And I'm speechless. Can you believe that?
Once, I can't believe that.
I'm speechless.
As you can see, the president has now gotten in a pace car, and he's going to take a lap around this track before the race begins, and he will give the command in just a few moments to fire the engines to the 40 cars and drivers that will be participating in today's Pepsi 400 here at Daytona. Well, it's been a great half-hour celebration. Richard Petty has received many gifts and has been honored by the president, but I have a feeling that his thoughts are now on the job at hand, the Pepsi 400, where he could get win number 201. King Richard, a hero to everyone in NASCAR Winston Cup racing.
He was the guy that always ran the smart race and laid back, and in the end, he always moved up and won the race. And he was, he was my hero.
He's always been one of my heroes. I've always pulled for him when I was coming up, and when I got the chance to race against him, that was the biggest thrill of my life.
I can remember when I was 8, 9 years old, sitting in a little Rexall drugstore in Rolla, Missouri, where I used to live, and a little place called Scott's. And I used to sit there, and I'd go through those stock car racing books, and I'd go, man, that's neat. I wish I could do that. I used to roller skate. I'd get in those roller skates and pretend I was Cale Yarborough and Richard Petty, you know. I'd zoom around them corners on roller skates.
He's the kind of guy that doesn't say much, but if you're ever standing there talking to him and he does say something, if you listen to what he says, at least everything I've ever heard him say, I thought he really knows what he's talking about. I mean, you know, the guy's been in the sport so long. When he says something, that's really the way it is.
Don't look back, don't be scared. We've got dreams and we're still young. Just think about how far we've come.
I'm doing something that I wanted to do, not what I wanted to set out to accomplish something for, you know, to be somebody or to be a legend or whatever you want to talk about there. It's just a deal that it just happened, and it just happened to me, and you know, I feel real fortunate about that part of it.
In the past 4 decades, Richard Petty has seen the face of stock car racing change dramatically. From that first short track win in 1960 to his unparalleled 200th career victory at Daytona in 1984. It was legendary battles like this one with longtime racing rival Cale Yarborough that will always be among his most cherished memories.
As far as winning races and losing races and stuff, I think I've been so fortunate with that. I don't think I can look back and say, you know, this one is head and shoulders over any of the rest of them, although naturally the 200th one, July the 4th, with the president at the racetrack and all that, that had to be the highlight, I guess, of what happened during the race, but during my career.
His 200 victories may have sealed a legend, but it was his off-track magic with the fans that created the king. In an era where many sports celebrities shied away from the masses, Richard Petty moved even closer. For him, every fan was a friend, and every friend deserved their special time with the king.
It started out a long time ago, and I guess the first one that ever asked for an autograph, I was, you know, overcome with excitement, I guess, and I signed his autograph, and probably never got over that.
Just as the eyes are the mirror to one's soul, Richard Petty's smile reflects the warmth in his heart.
He smiles all the time. It's amazing. Even when things are going bad, he's still smiling, so I try to do that. It's awful hard sometimes.
The one thing that sticks out in my mind about him is the way he just keeps on smiling no matter what happens.
He's great for the sport. Everybody loves him. I think he's one of the greatest things in racing.
I learned a long time ago it takes less energy to smile than it does to frown. There's just less muscles in you. So I guess I'm sorry enough that I just go ahead and smile. But I don't know, you know, it's a situation that you got to learn to live with good times. You got to learn to live with bad times. And I always feel like the real winners are the ones that learn to live with the bad times. Anybody can feel good and smile when they win.
And there you see a live shot of Richard Petty as he has made the transition from the stage, where he received a lot of gifts today here at Daytona, to race car driver. He has the helmet on, the gloves are going on, and before long, he'll fire the engine on the STP Pontiac and will begin his 54th race here at Daytona, seeking a win of the Pepsi 400, a 4th of July tradition that continues today here at Daytona International Speedway. And welcome back. I'm Bob Jenkins. Happy 4th of July, everybody. From all of us here at ESPN, we've got a great show lined up for you this afternoon of racing. 400 miles of competition here at Daytona International Speedway. It should be just a tremendous race, Nick.
Yes, it should be, Bob. You know, the conditions for the Pepsi 400 are totally different from the Daytona 500. It takes a different setup on the race car, takes a different mentality in approaching this race because of the heat. It makes a great deal of difference in this race.
It's been hot and humid here for the past few days, but the weatherman says no afternoon rain showers that are pretty common here this time of year.
Forget about the rain. I walked out of the hotel this morning at 6:30, and it was like I walked into a sauna. That's the problem the drivers face today, other than the racetrack net, is the heat inside the race car. It's going to be incredible, 125, 30 degrees.
By the way, I got to ask you, did you fold this? That's very nice,
Yeah.
Benny. You
Yeah,
spent
see?
all night doing that, I'll bet you.
Oops, excuse me. Sorry.
The Pepsi 400 from Daytona International Speedway is about to begin. And the Grand Marshal for this event, you saw him just a few minutes ago speaking to the audience here, is the President of the United States, George Bush. And it's my pleasure to say we go down to trackside now to get those famous words from the President.
And
And now, ladies and gentlemen, for those famous words, I present to you our Grand Marshal, the President of the United States. Mr. President.
Gentlemen, start your engines.